As you know, I've done something like this presentation before, but I've done a lot more research since I last presented it to the club. So I thought this would be an opportunity to test the system and just to go through it all over again. You said pressing the space bar. How do I move on? So this is Edward Louis Parrini, who was actually christened Eduardo Luigi Pietro Parrini. And we'll come to a lot more about him in due course. He said, move on. There we are. Try right. Why isn't it moving, Brian?
Don't know. Put your mouse, click your mouse on it.
Ah, right. So here's a much shortened version of the family tree, starting in 1770 and carrying on right through to the present day. And we'll concentrate on this in a little more detail. So Francesco Perini, we've discovered, was born in Livorno in Italy in 1770. Can't find any more about him. But his son was Luigi Perini and married a Caterina Corsi, and he died in 1832. But their children included Giovanni Parrini, again born in Livorno, and his wife was Antonia Rossi, was born in 1831 and died in 1852. My grandfather was born in 1850, and we'll get round to explaining in a few moments. But obviously he was orphaned, lost his mum when he was less than 2 years old. And that is really, I think, the start of a story. Hang on, move on. So he was christened in this church, Santa Maria Draperis in Istanbul. And this little church has been able to provide us with copies of baptismal and marriage records. And it actually shows that my grandfather's father married twice in this church, obviously when he remarried. And it now explains, we think, that Edward Parrini was rejected by his mother and was sent off to Italy for his education. But it is a well-known fact that Giuseppe Garibaldi visited Constantinople on a number of occasions, and he had great connections with a chap called Mazzini, an eminent resident of Constantinople. And Mazzini assisted Garibaldi by recruiting members of the Turkish Workers' Association to join Garibaldi's forces, which eventually led to the unification and formation of Italy. The Perini family believes that Edward Perini's father or grandfather was a recruiting officer for Garibaldi and served in his navy, hence the explanation of Edward Perini's parentage and place of birth. So that's Edward Perini, another photograph we've dug up of him, and I can now explain why Edward Perini left Constantinople. We note that his mother died in 1852 when he was just 2 years old, and Giovanni Perini married again, and we believe that she rejected him, and he then went off to relatives in Florence and for his schooling, and then to Naples to study art at the University of Naples. We believe that Edward Perini's first assignment and the reason for him coming to England was to understudy the master artist commissioned to paint the murals in Brompton Oratory in London. Brompton Oratory was constructed between 1880 and 1884, and Edward Perini doesn't appear in the 1881 census, but he does appear in the 1891 census, aged 39. it seems that he must have come to London between 1881 and 1884 at a point when the plaster was dry on the walls of the oratory under construction and ready for the artists to do their bit. Interestingly, Edward Parrinni's first marriage was actually in Kensington in 1841, and I've yet to research whether he actually got married in Brompton Oratory. It'd be a nice thought if he did, but I haven't got round to researching that, but it's a job that I must do sometime. And these are some pictures of the paintings in Brompton Oratory. We've been a couple of times, and I have to say some of them are in desperate need of restoration, but others are pretty good. But we don't know where Edward Parrinni's paintbrushes touch those murals, but he had a hand, we believe he had a hand in them somewhere along the line. Despite much research to verify Edward Parrinni's involvement, I have yet to find documentary evidence that this was the case, but it's a nice embellishment to the family story. The other aspect is that Edward had no close family in Italy and therefore had no reason to return to Italy once the job was done. The murals in Brompton Oratory are now complete, and his involvement has ended. And Edward was married and settled on as a scenic artist in South London looking for work. Amongst my possessions is a sketchbook and two of the earliest sketches of landmarks in Wandsworth in southwest London. The first one was of the Half Moon Public House on Lower Richmond Road. And I actually got this sketch in the little sketchbook, and when I show you what resulted, this is the pub painted and done on the corner there. And imagine an artist turning up at the doorstep and saying, "Would you like a painting of your pub?" And him probably getting a few shillings, a couple of pounds maybe, for that painting. We wait and see. And then the second sketch is of Fairfax House in Putney High Street. Fairfax House said to be the finest of all the manors of Putney, and is believed to have been built by a gentleman of that name in the reign of Queen Elizabeth I. It is even said that Her Majesty dined here on one occasion. Imagine again being confronted on your doorstep by an artist trying to make a living. And I just wonder how much Edward made out of that painting. Or, go back. How do I go back, Brian? Back one. Or, did Edward Parrini copy other people's work? Because the similarity between the painting in black, the pen and ink in black and white, which he didn't do, is so close to the painting that he did do. And I wonder whether as a jobbing artist, he just said, "Oh, well, I'll copy that and I'll sell a few copies for a few bob and hawk them around." But we've only ever found one of those two paintings you've seen in colour. We've only found ever one copy of each, and they're both adorning the walls of the outer office of the Mayor of Wandsworth in southwest London, and we've been to see them. And they're framed, and they're beautiful paintings about 2 feet across and 18 inches high. And they treasure those paintings, and wouldn't I like to get my hands on them? Whatever the true story, we'll probably never know. But local scenes of Wandsworth include those which show the River Wandle, which now runs under Wandsworth High Street and out to the Thames. And it was the source of water for the famous Young's Brewery in Wandsworth. The brewery was the last to use shire horses to pull the drays delivering the beer in southwest London, a sight that I remember well as a child. Certain byproducts of these horses filled a bucket in one go and made excellent organic fertilizer for the rhubarb. One feature of the area was Putney Bridge. The wooden construction of the old bridge must have fascinated Edwards as he, oh, come on, go back. It's jumping ahead of me. As he sketched it, and this is another sketch out of the sketchbook. But he painted it in oils, and this copy is in the Art Museum in Wandsworth. And he painted it in watercolour as well. And this is the copy, this is the painting I have here at home at Rockcliffe. But he would have witnessed the building of the present Putney Bridge, which we often see as it is today at the start of the university boat race every year as the starting point for the university boat race. So I've lost my place on the thing here. Looking across the other side of the river, this is the Fulham side of the river. Again, we've got that painting here at home. And here is Putney Bridge as it is today. So grandfather would have witnessed the building of that and the demolition of the old wooden bridge that ran on a slightly different route upstream of it, apparently. There follows a number of paintings, some of overseas locations, which I'm pretty sure he didn't visit, but painted from his imagination or from illustrations in books or postcards. We'll never know. But we have pictures of sailing boats of Venice, and my son's got about 4 of these. We had them all restored. They arrived pretty dirty and grubby, but he's had them restored and they're on display in his home. And my brother, who died last year in France, has got some more of these similar. And I reckon that these were just jobbing artists, paint the scene of Venice, take it out, hawk it around and see what you can get for it. I'm sure that's how it was done, because I doubt whether when you've seen, these keep coming up on eBay and in art galleries, and they're the same over and over again. And I reckon he just produced them, whether he had a shop or a studio and just kept putting them up, I don't know. These are some scenes, again, coastal scenes. We've got these, but again, can't truly identify where they are. But if you, on the left-hand one, if you look in the distance, there is the outline of a building which could be in Venice. And to the right of the far sailing boat is a tower which could be the tower in St. Mark's Square in Venice. We don't know. This is a Middle Eastern scene. And we wonder whether it's a street scene somewhere in Turkey, in Istanbul. Obviously, he knew he'd been born there, and maybe just out of interest, he thought, I'll do a sketch of how things may be in Turkey. These are two oil paintings. The one on the left I have here at home. We think it's a street in Naples, but could be Florence, we just don't know. But the painting on the right is of the Maison Hotel in Nice. And this painting was on sale in Switzerland about 18 months ago. And the the starting bid was at 2,200 euros. You probably know I'm so poor, I didn't actually put in a bid for that one, but it sold and it's now in somebody's home over in Europe somewhere or other. But the one on the left, just as good in my opinion, and worthy of a few bobs worth, I'm sure. The scene on the left is of fishing cottages at Folkestone in Kent. Fishermen's Cottages, East Street, Folkestone, Kent. And we acquired that one about 18 months, 2 years ago from a auction room in Chicago. Came up on eBay. They wanted an extortionate price for it, but I corresponded with them, told them my family history, and we got it for, I think, about $100. Very gratefully, we gratefully received it, but it needed cleaning and sorting out. But the resultant cleaning has resulted in a very nice little painting. And the painting on the right, we have that one as well, is of the parish church at Twickenham on the River Thames, just outside London, where the rugby's played. Move on. Click. On the left again, I'm sorry the reproduction isn't very good on this one because it's under glass. But the one on the left again is a scene in Turkey. The tower has got a crescent and star emblem in the top of it, in equivalent of the wind vane at the top of the tower, and it definitely is a scene that he must have taken from a postcard or something in Turkey. And the picture on the right is another church scene on the River Thames. This is at Wargrave in Berkshire. And we have, through my brother and my two sons, so many more of these paintings between us. And, you know, one day, what we're going to do with them all, I just don't know. Oops, go back, Mum. So those that have visited our house will know that I've got quite a collection of these paintings. These are a few of them in the front room. Move on, click again, and some more. Some of them you've just seen on the scenes here. Bottom middle, that scene of Venice is lovely, and then the painting on the left is Putney Bridge and other scenes along the way. My grandfather painted the painting on the left, and it's owned by my cousin down in Kent, and is believed to be my grandmother sitting by the fire with one of her daughters, either Eleanor or Sylvia. And that was the state of their domestic situation when he was a young man. And my grandmother, I was thinking about her 30s, is pictured on the right. She was widowed in 1914 and she lived till 1963. So I know her as a very old, much elderly looking than that photograph on the right hand side. This is a self-portrait of Edward Louis Parrini. And everybody sees this painting, says, what a handsome fella he must have been, with his beard and everything. You'll notice that his leg and foot are not finished. This is unfinished work, self-portrait. Looking at the area where it's not painted, it's straight onto wood, and it looks as though it's the back of an old cigar box. My cousin in Kent owns this one too, but I'm promised that I will get this one in due course. So I hope you've enjoyed what I've had to say to you. I thank you for your interest. I hope you've enjoyed the results of my studies into my family history. And if there's time, Brian, I'm happy to close things down and answer any questions that you may have between you all. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks, Tony. I'm just unmuting everybody now.
Hello, Tony. Can I say
Tony?
That was really good. Fascinating.
There you are.
Can I say something?
Yes, certainly.
Several things, Tony. The picture of the lady by the fireplace.
Yes.
How old was the artist when that was painted?
Well, he died in 1914. Looking at that, I would put that painting probably around about. Hang on. The daughters were born in 1906 and 1905. So it'll be about. I would have thought about 1906 or 7. That sort of time.
He was coming towards the end of his life.
He died in 1914.
14,
of cancer. Yeah, cancer.
it seems to lack maturity, and would you have thinking, looking at it, that it was a much earlier painting?
Well, the daughters, I
Is
say,
it signed? Is it signed?
yes, they're all
Yes,
signed. Yeah, yeah.
Just several other things. I've got something here you might be interested in. Do you recognise that?
Well, that's Garibaldi.
Garibaldi, yes.
Yeah, there we are.
Well, I've
No,
got some in the cupboard.
That was potted in the late 1900s, and
Wow.
it's considered quite a desirable piece.
Ah. I
And
like it.
another connection with your story, I'm a shareholder in Young's Breweries. It's still going strong.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
they're not delivering with the shy horses now. The shy horses are all used in showgrounds with the drays, I think.
Yes, yeah. But it's very interesting and very well put together, may I say.
You're more than welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And now, can I say to you, sometime or other, could you do a nice photograph of Garibaldi's little statue and email it to me? I'll add it to my collection of bits and pieces.
Okay,
And
we'll
maybe
do that.
when this lockdown is over, I'll invite you over with your camera. And you can
I bought this. I bought this in the 1970s
yeah.
from an antique shop in Kensington High Street, and it was owned by a man called Oliver Sutton,
Ah, right.
who I didn't know, but my wife recognised him as a well-known actor.
Mhm.
But as I say, I didn't recognise him.
Yeah.
But I paid £55 for it,
Oh,
which was, you know, quite a lot at the time.
yeah.
But he did promise that if ever I wanted to sell it, he'd give me my money back.
Right. Anybody else?
Tim, you had something.
Tony, would you ever think of trying to self-publish the paintings as a family enterprise?
Yeah. A few years ago, we put together a montage of these and tried to sell them or offer them to one of the companies that do greetings cards and Christmas cards and things, but they weren't interested. But if I just step away a minute. What I did do for the family last year for Christmas presents, I produced a calendar of
Oh,
paintings.
very good, yeah.
And I might just do this again because it, you know, I'm just flipping through. But we did paintings each month, and some of them we own, and some of them we don't. But you know, beautiful scenes. And so I only had 10 made, so it's a rarity. But I might do the same project again and produce more because. Would you like a copy if I do it again? No, obviously not.
They're very interesting, Tony.
I'll have to give them away. Anyway, there you go. Yes,
Tony,
yes.
when did the spelling of the name change? Because there was a few of them was Parrini had an E on the end rather than an I. Was that just the thing at the time, or was that a family thing that changed it?
I think Parini's in different parts of Italy have different spellings. I mean, I believe Umbrian Perinis there's variations. There's one R and one N and an E on the end. There's in Sicily, there is a Parrini Street in Sicily, and that is Parinne. So there's all sorts of variations on the theme.
I know from the UK side, I've been doing a lot of family tree for myself. A lot of the variations that you get in some of the names on birth certificates and things, with the fact that people were basically illiterate.
Yeah.
And when you had things like census collections in the late, in the late 1800s, beginning the 1900s.
Yeah.
An awful lot of the people who were doing the census collection couldn't spell properly anyway. So there's 4 or 5 variations on my name. I wondered if it could have been on that.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
That's the same thing I found doing research on my mom's side is the different spellings of her lockmiller or shoemaker names.
Yeah, and the other thing is mistakes were made on census documents.
Yeah.
And frequently, you're looking, people tell me they're looking at the right family, but when they look back, there are other spellings of their surname, and it's, I mean, Walsh and Welsh is a favourite. You know, somebody doing research on the Walsh family will find that they've got ancestors who were Welshes, and there's all sorts of things like that.
I have a lot of weights in my family.
Yeah.
W-A-I-T-E.
Yeah. Green with an E, green without an E. Now, just finally, I have to insure that little lot, by the way. I try not to pay more than £100 for a painting. The last one I got for $25 from America, but is in such a bad state. I bought it anyway, and it will cost a lot to get it restored because it's an oil painting. I'm waiting for Paul Laidlaw to get back in business to find somebody who might be able to restore it for me. But by the time you've got it across here, paid the VAT from America, then got it restored, then got it framed, you know, you're talking about £100 at least on top of the purchase price to get it done. But it's worth doing. It's family heirlooms at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Paul Laidlaw is still in business. It's
Yeah.
all online.
Yeah,
But if you go send him an email,
I have done.
he will make an arrangement for you to come one afternoon when
Yeah,
you can leave something for him to value.
yeah. He's got an email from me to say, you know, does he know an art restorer that I can use? He hasn't replied to it, but I'll get round to it.
Again, like with the credit card reader, if you have anything incredibly valuable that you want valued by me, just bring it around my doorstep. I may not arrange a collection service again for it again. Tony, I haven't got a host to the speaker today because we didn't know it was going to go, so I shall do this myself. Thank you. Fascinating, to tell you the truth, and quite a prolific artist because you often think of these people doing half a dozen things and it goes out, but it seems as if he had a real prolific output. But also what's fascinated me is the fact that he was well-travelled. And we're well-travelled these days. We're complaining because we can't go on our holidays on a cruise or something because there's lockdown. But when you consider that it would have taken months to get between some of the countries that he went to.
If he went.
If he went.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he certainly, you know, from that, even just travelling around the UK to get to different places from where he was living would have taken a considerable amount of time. So that's a story in itself, which I'm really pleased you brought us, because I think it's been a really good way to kick off the idea of doing online talks. I think it's proved it works well.
Yeah.
One of the things I was doing, I was a bit sneaky because while you were talking, I was looking at other people's faces and scrolling through the photographs to see what you lot were up to. Yeah. Actually, do you know what I'm doing?
I couldn't see any of you.
I sneaked away at one point because Sue's just going out to work, so the dog didn't start barking. But apart from that, everybody was really interested and everybody, I think, enjoyed it. So could I ask all of you to give thanks to Tony and the noble man?
Thank you very much indeed.